Welcome into the latest edition of our Cubs REKAP Podcast, a presentation of our REKAP YouTube channel and available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcasts. That guy in the screen is Gordon Wittenmeyer, my friend. I love him dearly. I love tangling with him. I'm David Kaplan. It's brought to you by our great partners at the Illinois Tollway and their If Only campaign. Folks, quick time out before we start. Talk about something very serious. We've all said it before. If only I had slowed down. The Illinois Tollway's new campaign is called If Only, and it's a powerful reminder that speeding doesn't just put you at risk, it affects everyone on the road. Every crash leaves someone wishing they'd done things differently. So take the extra time, slow down, save lives, including yours, depend on it. All right, Gordon, let's get into it. Let's talk about Kyle Tucker, Craig Counsell, and everything that has been going on, because I want to know who did the code red on Craig Counsell. Remember in Few Good Men?
Yeah.
I want to know. Right. I want to know who put the code red on him, because Sunday he sat at the press conference as vanilla and morose as you could be, and that's why we struggle with whether we should call Owen up, and I'm going to play the best guys, and he's got to, navigate that. And 24 hours later, Kyle Tucker needs days with an S on the end of it off, and Owen's playing both ends of a doubleheader on Tuesday. He hits a home run. He drives in 4 in the 2 games. He makes 2 outstanding running catches in the right field corner, and Kyle Tucker we haven't seen in a couple of days now. So I would like to know who performed the code red.
Yeah. Also, remember, I think that's an organizational thing. I mean, remember that when Owen Caissie first came up, the question is, why aren't you playing him immediately? And the question is, well, we got our guys. But then one more game, and it's like, okay, maybe Kyle Tucker is slamming his equipment too much. Maybe he is that frustrated. Maybe he does need some downtime, and by downtime, as you say, multiple days. So I think from an organizational standpoint, you call up Owen Caissie, you expect to see him play, and there's a reason for it. And he's done a good job, but I would be worried about Kyle Tucker. I mean, look, we know he got hurt way back in the beginning of June. He had a good June. Since June, he hasn't been even a shadow of his former self. And whether that's bad habits created by the injury, as Jed Hoyer said a few weeks ago, or whether it's just he's totally healthy and he's just slumping, as Jed said, basically a day or two ago, whatever it is, he's in a really bad place right now. And we saw when he's right, he lifts the whole lineup. When he's not, they're like an average lineup. And so I think you got a right to be worried about Kyle Tucker, no matter how well Owen Caissie's playing.
Yeah, when you asked me before we started, am I worried about Tucker? I worried about his health, because I don't think he's healthy. You cannot tell me.
I agree with that.
And he doesn't look healthy. And then Pat Murphy said he didn't look healthy. And so if he needs an IL stint, put him on the IL. If it's a mental thing, Mark DeRosa was on MLB Network on Tuesday. And I'm watching Mark DeRosa, who I love. I think he's awesome. I loved him when he was a Cub. He's a great dude. And he said, so Kyle Tucker needs a mental reset in a playoff race? No way. He said, I don't believe it. There's no way you could take a mental reset in a playoff race. Now, what I would say to you is, if Owen Caissie's up here, he's got to play some. I'm not telling you he's got to play every day, but why is Ian Happ out there every single day? He's hitting 220, whatever. Seiya has got hardly any home runs in a month. Why can't he have games? I mean, PCA's defense has to be out there. I get that. But absolutely. Owen Caissie needs to play.
Well, yeah. But if Owen Caissie's playing regularly, there's probably something wrong with your lineup. And I think we just described what it is. Get Kyle Tucker right. I'm with D-Row on this. Nobody's got more high-level playoff experience, World Series experience than this guy. There's no way this is mental other than if he's inside of himself because he knows something's wrong, because he's obviously frustrated. There's a mental element to it when he's slamming his equipment. So we know there is some frustration for some reason, but get him right now, because here's the thing. This team, when they swept that doubleheader, they'd be a half game out in the East. They'd be ahead of the Dodgers in the West. They're going to make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It would take a colossal collapse for them not to make the playoffs. They have enough pitching to do it, even though there's not a ton of depth there. So get these guys right for that, because that's all that's going to matter, and I still think, as good as Owen Caissie is, and you're seeing reasons why they kept him at the trade deadline, I still think he should have been traded at the deadline, because he's not going to be the reason, for instance, that you win. But if you fall short, it's probably going to be because of what you didn't get had you traded for him or had you traded him. So October is all that matters to this club right now. And they have to be prepared to beat these teams in October. They should be in halfway decent position. The Padres are better than they were before the trade deadline. They've got a chance to get on a run. But if the Cubs can hold serve against them and or the Dodgers and hang on to that top wild card spot, they should be in fairly decent condition going into the postseason. But I don't know how they go deep without getting these hitters right.
So you said, now, if we look back at the trade deadline, couple things. I would not have made the trades for Joe Ryan or Mackenzie Gore and putting Cade Horton in any deal, Matt Shaw in a deal, and Owen Caissie or Jackson Wiggins. If you told me that trading Owen Caissie got me Joan Duran, yeah, I'm interested. I am absolutely interested, because I'm trying to win right now. But maybe Jed said that kid's going to be a really good player, and what I'm watching for a month when the deadline was, I'm not re-signing Kyle Tucker. If he knew that, then he couldn't trade Owen Caissie.
Well, look, I would never go back in retrospect and suggest, well, they should have done this, should have done that for guys that didn't get traded, because obviously nobody in the league met those prices. So it's not fair to do comparisons on that. The guys that did get traded, we know what the prices were out there. They got a pitcher that wasn't even having a good year, and he breaks down as soon as he pitches for him. That probably, even had he not broken down, he wasn't having a good year. I'm not sure how great a trade that was. The Reds went out and got an under-the-radar guy in Zach Littell, who's been doing nothing but pitch well for them. A rent-a guy they gave up a couple of prospects for. You could have got these guys that got traded. You could have got them. You could have paid a price and got Merrill Kelly. You could have got some of these guys if you'd have gone in a little deeper. Maybe in a case here or there, if you're going to deal with the Twins, maybe you would have had to give up Caissie. I don't know, but maybe you get more in return. If they don't win in October, it's going to be because guys like Kyle Tucker still aren't hitting, and they don't have enough pitching to do it.
So in terms of looking at where this team is right now, and I said to you, I don't know who did the code red on Craig Counsell, and all of a sudden Kyle Tucker isn't playing after Sunday, saying we got to have these guys in the lineup. The other thing that I find interesting is yesterday Craig Counsell met the media before the first game of the doubleheader. He wasn't the same guy. It was like somebody shot the guy full of adrenaline. It was, man, these guys aren't scared in there. We're looking forward to the next 7 weeks. I'm like, whoa, where has this guy been? Because I have been wildly underwhelmed by the manager of the Cubs, who they're paying $8 million a year to. I'm not questioning his knowledge of the game. I'm not telling you he's not a good guy. What I'm seeing and how they're playing is not translating that I've got a tactical advantage in the dugout most nights.
Yeah, and I'd be careful of putting too much stock in one pregame before a doubleheader when he might have just been fresh off a Red Bull in the morning or something like that.
Maybe, but we haven't seen it. He's had, I'm sure, plenty of Red Bulls if that's what he drinks.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying is we don't know going forward. He's got a reason to feel very optimistic coming off of that day. And once they clear the Brewers, they've got a long stretch of games against mediocre to bad teams. They're going to be fine getting there. I keep saying this, and he's probably pretty optimistic in that regard, knowing where he's at and knowing what's coming next. I don't know. I'm a little down on. Ever since the trade deadline, I've been down on these guys and their prospects going forward, meaning their future prospects heading into the fall. Even though maybe the National League isn't quite as strong as we might have thought coming into the season, or even in the first half. I mean, Philly looks mortal. Atlanta's disappeared. The Mets have only recently begun to win a couple of games. The Dodgers aren't the same as they've been. I just don't know how they win even 2 series in October at this point, the way they look right now. And that might change as they go through this soft schedule and maybe get a little more confidence, and maybe somehow Kyle Tucker gets right and they start raking again. Yeah, right now I'm selling.
Okay. I want to talk realignment with you. Enough about Craig Counsell. I want to talk a little realignment, and then we can talk about what we've seen through the first 3 games.
You just want the White Sox in your same division.
I think it'd be awesome. I think it'd be super cool. I'm looking at a proposed MLB realignment, the National League Midwest Division, Cubs, White Sox, Cardinals, Reds. You like that? Some others have the Cubs, Brewers, White Sox, Twins.
Why wouldn't they go Brewers, Cubs, White Sox, Cardinals?
Cubs, Brewers, White Sox, Cardinals. They could absolutely do that, but they say they want to keep the Cardinals and the Royals together.
Wait, but the Royals weren't in that.
No, what I'm saying to you is there's some proposals out there people are speculating that would not put the Cubs and Cardinals together because they want the Cardinals and the Royals together.
Yeah, I've read some proposals too. Like when you talk about out west, San Francisco would be put in a different division than the Dodgers, but that they would try to weight the schedule so that you'd still get some premier rivalry game. You get a few extra of those premier rivalry games. I'm fine with it. I've heard some, Howie Rose apparently doesn't like it very much. Howie out in New York, right?
Yep.
And there's a lot of purists like that say, well, hell, the National League and the American League will cease to exist as we know them. Well, they already have. There's a DH in both leagues. Everybody plays everybody every year, and they don't sort of account for interleague play when it comes to your league's standings. So it's already blurred. There's no league offices anymore. They broke up the different leagues for umpires. So this has been coming for 25 years.
They may just do away with National and American and just have Major League Baseball. And I talked to someone today. Yeah. He said, because one of the divisions is the Red Sox proposal. Red Sox, Phillies, Mets, and Yankees. And people were saying, well, that one's going to be all the heavyweight spenders, and you got the ones that won't spend. And the Major League executive I talked to today, he said, I can promise you we may miss all of the 27 season, but whenever baseball comes back, this is him, not me. There will be 100% a salary cap. And so it won't matter who's spending what in what division.
Well, number one, I don't believe that. And number two, I think baseball likes the idea of separating big spenders over here and smaller spenders over here because it gives those smaller markets, a chance to make the playoffs. I'll tell you a story. I covered 2 Hall of Fame induction ceremonies in 01 and 04, and I can't remember which one it was. It might have been the first one in 01. Anyway, the point is, I was talking to a guy who worked in MLB's offices in England, of all places. And not that that matters for this story, but we were talking about what they had done with realignment and how it was all an economic thing. We were talking about that because I said it. This guy worked in the business offices. I was talking about how baseball loves this because by separating these divisions and creating a central division in both leagues, you've created essentially a small market division outside of the Cubs in the one division. And the Cubs don't spend, haven't historically spent like the biggest spending teams. And you got all this money on the coasts, and then you got the small markets in the middle. And just as I was saying that, Bud Selig and his entourage walked by. And he said, well, I don't know if I agree with that. And we started arguing, as I tend to sometimes do. And
really? No shit.
And I said, well, how do you explain this? I mean, you got all your small market teams in one place. And so it's perfect for your marketing. It's perfect for your economics. And as we went back and forth 2 or 3 times on this, he eventually had enough and walked away. But I believe that this is part of what they like. And so if you got if you got 4 huge spenders in one division, fine. So let them duke it out in a heavyweight match, one, and then 2 others might yet still make the playoffs. And then you assure that this other division that's got smaller market teams gets somebody in. I think they love that. And by the way, National American League, I think this is how they do it. I've seen some proposals that suggest they do it kind of like the NBA, have a Western Conference and an Eastern Conference. I think what they ought to do is do it more like the NFL. Well, except, the NFL still separates their conferences, but keep the traditional names, right? Maybe your American League is West and your National League is East, or vice versa. But go ahead and have the 2 leagues and then regionalize these 8 divisions.
If there is indeed a labor stoppage, do you think this is part of it? They come out of the stoppage and say, here's the new CBA, whatever it is, salary cap, no salary cap, whatever it is. Here's the expansion teams. Here's the realignment. Or do you think this is dribs and drabs as they get the CBA first? We'll figure out the rest.
I don't think it'll be all of it because there's just this huge big elephant in the negotiating room with this CBA. And by the way, there's a couple of domino effects that have to take place before they do the realignment. One of the things they want to do is make sure that they got the A's and the Rays solved, whatever their stadium situation is in the A's case, making sure that they're settled in Las Vegas or at least committed with ground broken and a stadium going up, because then they're clear. Then all the 30 teams have theirs. And now you go to your $2 billion expansion fees and the cities and the ownership groups that want to pay it and go in. Nashville, obviously, it seems would be one of those. And then it just depends. Are you talking Salt Lake City? Are you talking Portland? What's the other one? So, that'll be down the road. It'll be a few dominoes falling over these next few years, even after the next CBA.
I'm pretty confident it's Salt Lake City and Nashville.
Plus, yeah, right. I mean, it's Nashville for sure. Portland's holding out some hope, and they got some people. Who knows? That would be perfect for realignment if it's Portland, because now Seattle doesn't have a long trip everywhere they go. All
right, let's go. Let's get back to the Cubs for a little bit before we wrap this up. The Cubs are going to play the Brewers again tonight, again tomorrow. And if they win one of the 2 games, they win the season series, would have the tiebreaker if it came to matter. I don't know if it will.
It ain't going to matter.
Now, well, right now, as we tape there, Sparky, they're 7 back. And if they take tonight, they get to 6. If they were to take tonight and then take tomorrow and they get to 5, look out. They've got a schedule that's pretty damn favorable. Well, so don't count my boys out yet.
Look, if they can beat the Brewers 4 straight games and then launch into that 24 game stretch of patsies, then I'll give you the chance of that happening. It's still 5 games to make up in a relatively short amount of time, but by beating this team that has 2 11-game winning streaks this year, one of them a franchise record 14, fairly recently, to beat them 4 times in a row will say something to me. More likely, I think it's a success if you come out with a split the last 2 games, win the series, and then you're 6 games out, right? It'd be 6 games. No, it'd still be 7 games out. And so even with the 24-game patsies, it's still not probably going to happen. I think you need to get your house in order. I think you'll be fine getting to October. I think you need to get your house in order so that you can win in October. Everything right now needs to be to set up to win in October. Get Kyle Tucker right. Make sure you keep your pitching healthy, and then hopefully some other pieces fall in place behind that. Hopefully Ian Happ's got a streak in him. He's been a streaky hitter his whole life. Maybe his streak comes in September on. Suzuki will probably be okay, especially if the rest of the lineup picks up. And I don't know what's going on with PCA. He's still a young kid figuring out these long seasons, but maybe he's got another burst in him down the stretch.
Here is the Brewers' schedule. After tonight and tomorrow day with the Cubs, they go home. They get the Giants for 3. They get the Diamondbacks for 4. Then they go on the road, and they're in Toronto to take on a really good Blue Jays team. Then they come back home for 3 with the Phillies, who will be in a dogfight in their division. And then they go to Pittsburgh, to Texas, home for the Cardinals, home for the Angels after a day off, at the Cardinals, at the Padres, and they close the season with 3 at home against the Reds.
I think that's I don't think that's an especially tough or an especially soft schedule. I think it's right down the middle.
I agree with you. I think the Cubs schedule is easier than that.
I think it's completely easier. And then, if you want to bring the Reds in, they're at the fringes of the playoff race. They've got the toughest of the group. Let me ask you this. Other than let's take the Brewers aside right now. The other teams in the National League playoff race, who scares you? Like, who do you think would be the team you don't want to face?
The Phillies.
Phillies?
Now, losing Zach Wheeler changes everything.
Yeah. But
he may be done for the year.
Imagine Kyle Schwarber up late in the game at Wrigley with maybe the series on the line. Yeah. That's a guy you don't want to face him with the,
now that loss of Zach Wheeler's massive.
It is, but if there's one team whose rotation can take that, it might be theirs, right?
It might be. The Dodgers are playing better. Their pitching is getting healthier. So we'll see.
And the Padres could go either way. I mean, they're better. They're better than they were before the deadline. They're a good team. They can beat anybody, but it just feels like they can also lose to anybody.
Per the stat guru known as Ryan McGuffey, he just sent me this. Cubs have 2nd easiest strength of schedule rest of season. Brewers have 10th hardest. Padres have easiest schedule rest of way.
Yeah, so that makes that first wild card, the race for the first wild card, really interesting then with the Padres and the Cubs. And
first and second right there, baby.
Yeah. And then you're talking about You're talking about hosting a first round. Yeah, that's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
That would be against the other one. In all likelihood, it would be you'd be playing the other one, the Padres, either there or you're playing. And it'd be way easier getting them out in Chicago than it would going out west.
Gordon, I'll end it on this. Every morning after a good night's sleep, you grab a cup of coffee and you find a way to win a baseball game. Let's go tonight, Cubbies.
Cap, we disagree on a lot of things, but I always appreciate your energy.
Have a great day, man.
All right, you too.
You're the best. There he is, Gordon Wittenmeyer, my partner, my friend, and my sparring partner here on our Cubs Recap Podcast, a presentation of our Recap YouTube channel and available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcast. And it's brought to you by The Illinois Tollway and their If Only campaign. We've all said it before. If only I had slowed down. The Illinois Tollway's new campaign is called If Only. It's a powerful reminder that speeding doesn't just put you at risk. It affects everyone on the road. Every crash leaves someone wishing they'd done things differently. So take the extra time. Slow down, save lives. Lives including yours depend on it. For Gordon, I'm Kap. Fly the W, baby. Let's go. Take that.